Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Toss-Up. I'm Riley Woodall. We're into December, and by now, a fourth of the NBA season has been played. We'll break down the multitude of storylines, great games, and underwhelming performances. Plus, stay tuned to the end of the show for some good old-fashioned NBA trivia. It's all next on the Toss-Up. With the return of the NBA comes with it a myriad of rabid fan bases, a magnitude of history-making moments, and a mountain of talented players all competing for a chance at immortality. The storylines go as follows. The Celtics are primed for a repeat. Can regular season success translate to postseason success for the Thunder? Hello, Cleveland. LeBron and Bronny. It was special on paper, but it just hasn't worked out. And so many more talking points that would have these guys next to me debating for hours. So we'll jump right into it. As I've alluded to just now, we have an awesome group of NBA heads with us. Andrew Eastwick, Sam Heuser, and Jhett Garrett. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show to talk some NBA. How are we doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Can't complain.
Feeling good.
Just a few complaints, but
hey, we'll get into that. So what are your guys' main takeaways from the early first quarter of the season?
Well, I mean, I think we have to start with just how unpredictable the season's been. I mean, if you look at the season standings in both conferences right now compared to where they were at the end of last year, there's so much movement up and down the standings, so many teams that are flying up, so many teams that are falling down, that any given night there are several games where the outcome is far from guaranteed.
Chaos.
It's been a lot of fun.
Chaos, absolutely. Sam? Jhett?
I'm going to say, you talk about unpredictability, and I'm not going to disagree with that, but I am going to say there's one predictable thing that was going to be mentioned, and it probably will be mentioned again, and that's the Celtics.
They're inevitable.
Come on, like
Thanos.
Like what can you do when Kristaps Porzingis just comes out of nowhere and drops 30 on your head from the free throw line with middies or just free throws? I also want to give a quick shout out to the Pistons. I was on here last year. I said that they were going to be a good team. They obviously set a record. I'm not going to say which record, but that's part of the unpredictability where they look like a play-in team now.
I think some of the things you're seeing in the East, you mentioned Boston, they're probably the favorite right now by a lot, but I think Cleveland's done very well this year. I'll sing my praises on Cleveland. I was very high on them going into the year. But the West, I've been very impressed with teams in the West. I think Denver's taken a step back in the last couple of seasons, a lot this year. They just don't have it anymore, in my opinion. But the Thunder have been playing very well, even with the injured Chet Holmgren. So I just really think it's wide open right now. I know the Celtics are the favorites, I've said, but it's so wide open right now. Unpredictable is a great word.
One of the ingredients that you need for chaos is surprises. And there have been several teams that have been early season surprises. Andrew, who are some of those teams that you've been surprised about that maybe you weren't expecting to be surprised about that are having success right now?
Well, we just alluded to it. There's a lot of teams like that, and I've been mostly surprised and impressed by ones that have been carried by their defenses. Now, if you had told me at the start of the season that the NBA Cup would feature 8 finalists and that 2 of them would be the Houston Rockets and the Orlando Magic without Paolo Banchero, I would have told you you're probably crazy. But they've been 2 of the 3 best defensive teams in the league all season long. They do it in different ways. Like the Magic, they just pound you on the ball, they turn you over, they grab rebounds. Even though scoring's really rough all over the floor for them, they make every single game tough, and I think they're the 3rd seed in the East right now, which is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
And the Houston Rockets, they make it hard no matter what, everywhere on the floor. You're shooting bad at the rim, you're shooting bad in the mid-range, you're shooting bad from 3. And
all over the place.
They're everywhere, dude.
They really are.
They're so young, they're everywhere.
Even though Alperen Şengün is having
Athletic.
the worst finishing season of his career, he has still been the engine of a very, very effective team that actually somehow, despite also having a lot of offensive issues, is a top 10 offense this season because of their offensive rebounding. So both of those teams have really, really impressed me. And I also want to give a shout out to the Los Angeles Clippers with James Harden, 36 years old, still going, the engine of a great offense, that top 5 defense as well. Really, really smart coaching. They play hard as heck. Chris Dunn should be an all-defensive player. And the Clippers, they're top 6 in the West right now. And I don't think anybody would have seen that coming without Kawhi.
James Harden, great story, obviously. He's still going. Great to see that he's still playing. He's one of the greats, of course.
Absolutely.
Sam, we talked about some of the teams that have surprised us in a good way. Maybe some teams that have surprised us in a bad way. Who are your teams that have kind of let you down in this first quarter of the season?
Well, the most obvious one is Western Conference Finals appearance team, Minnesota Timberwolves, because they made a big trade. They traded away Karl Anthony Towns. They get Julius Randle. That's the big guys in the trade, right? There's obviously a few other pieces that are in that, but I mean, they just look all sorts of out of whack. They have Anthony Edwards, who used to be known as the slashing guy, attack the rim constantly, opens the floor for guys like Mike Conley, who was shooting around 40% before that. Now he's shooting like just around, 9-10 threes a game, something like that. And he's making a good amount of them, but that closes their floor and a lot of their open space that was necessary for them to make that conference finals run. And Mike Conley's having a much worse year. Julius Randle doesn't really look like he fits on some games. On other games, he looks like, okay, he's back to his New York ways. So that's one team in the West, but I'm not going to talk about this team much in the East, but the Pacers on the road look like the worst team in the NBA, and that's all I'm going to say about them. I don't really want to.
Do you think they're asking too much of Edwards?
I wouldn't say they're asking too much of Edwards because he is their guy.
Sure.
When you have a guy like Anthony Edwards who's so dominant and can do really whatever he wants on a court and knows he's the best guy on the court no matter who he plays, or even if there's a better guy, he thinks he's the best guy on the court, you're not asking too much of him to do anything because that's the guy that everyone else looks for to do something, right?
Yeah.
You need him to just step up more. You have to have him be more of a vocal leader, an on-floor leader, getting in everyone's face on defense no matter the matchup, if it's the worst team or if you're playing the Thunder. Like, it doesn't matter. You have to have him step up.
Well, luckily for them, both teams, there's still a lot of ball left to be played, right? So plenty of time for both of them to figure it out. But, again, long season. Remains to be seen if they're actually going to figure it out. Jhett, we've kind of alluded to it a little bit already, but I'm curious your take on the best and worst teams in both conferences and why you think so.
I think if you're looking in the East right now, you obviously want to say the Celtics. But I think in the short term, I'll give some love to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, they started 15-0.
Yeah.
You know, they're at 19-3 now, firmly atop of the East. Even with that great start, though, the Celtics are just right behind them. But for now, through the first quarter, I'll give the Cavaliers some love. I think they'll probably end up being around the 2 or 3 in the East. Donovan Mitchell.
So you think they're going to slow down a little bit?
I think maybe kind of mellow out a little bit.
Sure.
You know, I don't think that 17-0 or 15-0 is not sustainable. Obviously, that's still a very good basketball team over there with Mobley. We talked about it a little bit before, and Donovan Mitchell as well. You remember the run he went on in Utah as the 1 seed. In the West, I'll go Dallas. I love this Dallas team. I think they're so deep.
Yeah.
I love Luka and Kyrie. I think Daniel Gafford was, in my opinion, the biggest reason that Dallas went on the run they did to the NBA Finals a season ago to the Celtics. I think they're going to go right back to the NBA Finals this season. I think they will make it in over the Thunder, who are the favorite right now. Worst teams, I think you look at these teams. I'll go Wizards in the East, and I'll go Jazz in the West. The Jazz were my pick to be the worst team in the league this year, but I think these two teams really show how much the NBA needs an expansion. Because you've got 9 guys on the Wizards averaging double figures. And you look at some of the players in Utah, Lauri Markkanen, Keontae George, Colin Sexton, they've won 4 games. You know, I really do think that they need to expand within the next couple of years just because of something like that. But I'll go Wizards and Jazz as my 2 worst teams.
I love the expansion.
Yeah,
I love
was
that.
talking a little bit of expansive. Real quick before we go to break, bold takes and predictions from all of you gentlemen about the rest of the season. Got a lot of basketball left to play.
I think that I kind of leaned into it a little bit. I said at the beginning of the year that Dallas would win the finals this year. And I think I'll ride with it. I'll ride with it because I think at this point it's a little new yet in the NBA season. Things are kind of, the dust is still settling, 20 games in. I'll say Dallas wins the NBA Finals this year.
I kind of like that take. I do.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an out-of-reach take. I'm going to agree with that. But I'm also going to say I think the East, because I'm going to talk about the East with a hot take here, the Bucks are going to win the East.
No way.
I think the Bucks are going to win the East out of nowhere. I think Giannis is going to average like 50.
like him.
So they're going to turn it on.
I really do not like the Bucks, and I think their coaching is terrible. But Giannis, I think this is his
so
last
you think
year.
the players can overcome bad coaching?
I think the players can overcome bad coaching, and they're on. I think in their last 10 games they've won. I think in their last 10 games they've won 9. Damian Lillard, he's still Damian Lillard. They don't have the chemistry, but sometimes when a team is just that good with the players on paper and maybe they don't mesh well, when the playoffs comes, that's a whole new ball game. The postseason is different than the regular season. Giannis is already averaging insane numbers. When he was in the finals, had a 50-point game to seal the deal.
Yeah.
this is potentially his last year on the Bucks. Who's to say he's not going to go out and just absolutely dominate?
I think he's
And that's a
Just
hot take.
squirming
I
in the
think
seat.
I'm
Giannis
saying
is-
hot take for a reason.
Right,
Volleyball
right,
can
right,
say
right.
it's
That is a hot take.
That is a very hot take. I think Giannis is checked out. I think he's ready to go. He wants to go to LA. He wants to go to New York. He wants
Giannis
to
is
get out.
probably enjoying, I would say, the best offensive season of his career, so I don't think it's far-fetched to really hitch a ride on the back of a player like that. But in a similar vein to what you just said, I think that the Denver Nuggets might win the title this year.
Wow.
They really
okay,
are
so
taking a
I got a
step
thought
back.
on this. I got a thought on this.
They've
Okay.
obviously lost multiple pieces since their 2023 championship. They lost Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, now Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but they've added several pieces in the draft. Christian Brown has fit in perfectly as a starter just about. He's averaging 16 points per game. It's incredible. Peyton Watson has emerged as a real defensive player off the bench. Julian Strother's second year,
Strother
awesome
looking
shooter, fits
great
really,
for
really well
Gonzaga.
next to Nikola Jokic.
They're looking good.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're watching is a team with not a lot of margin for error, which they never really had, the best player in the world, which they still have, and Jamal Murray not at the peak of his powers. The difference is between this and that is that Jamal Murray was at the peak of his powers in 2023 in the playoffs. We know that guy to be arguably the greatest playoff riser in the history of basketball. All Denver needs to do is get into a good enough seeding, and I think they have a shot against anybody in the league.
I'll pose one to you. Boston doesn't repeat.
Yeah.
Because I hate dynasties. Anyway, we got some NBA trivia coming up right after the break. Let's see which one of these guys has the best ball knowledge. We'll be right back.
The Toss-Up, Fridays on IUSTV.
Welcome back to the NBA Toss-Up. It's time for a new segment called Who Knows Ball? Here's how it works. I have a list of NBA questions with me right here that I will be asking the panelists. Whoever gets the most correct answers will be declared the ultimate ball knower. And get this, guys, IU Sports Media. There's a lot on the line here.
I think
All right,
that
you guys ready?
Jhett and I should start with a 2-point lead.
I think
over
so.
him.
I heard the odds.
With a 2-point
The
handicap.
Vegas odds.
Ask a question.
2-point handicaps.
The odds have come out.
Some of
from
these are going to be
Vegas.
like Jeopardy, where it's just real quick, and some of them you not have to think about it. Okay, first one. The NBA's all-time leading scorer.
LeBron.
Nice. That's a point for Jhett. Number 2, the NBA player who has won the most MVP awards.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 6.
All right, I'm splitting it, so we're tied 1-1. You guys said it
Give me
at the
some
exact
help here,
same-
man.
I
1-1-1.
did ask him that pregame. If you can give me all 6 years, I'll give you a full point.
Question 3. Team with the most NBA championships.
Celtics.
Boston Celtics.
You got it. Okay. 2-1-1. Question 4. Think about this one for a second.
That's it
Who are the
for me
only
there.
2 players to average a triple-double for an entire season?
Oscar
Robertson, Russell Westbrook.
Nikola Jokic soon.
Had it.
Okay. If you can
I'll
name,
split that
if you
with
can name the years, it's a bonus point.
1962 for Oscar Robertson, 2017, 18, 19, and 21 for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
I still get a half point?
So we got 1, 3, 2. So 3, 2, 1 right now. Come on, Jhett. Here we go. This is a good one for you. All right. By the way, Jokic trying to add himself to that conversation.
He will.
Let's just see if he can.
He will.
Question 5. The first player in NBA history to be a unanimously voted MVP.
Stephen Curry.
Curry.
Curry in 2006.
It was him. It was him. It was him.
Okay.
I second guessed
Year
myself. Or I
before
would
the
have had it.
73.
3, 3, and
That was
1.
the
All right,
Oh, that
Jhett.
was
Hey,
the
we got 2 left. There's a chance for a tie here.
First
All
year,
right.
KD.
The,
No, it was year before. That's all right.
Which 2 teams competed in the NBA's first official game?
the Toronto Huskies and the New York Knicks.
Yeah, and what year?
Was that 1947?
1946.
1946. Boom.
Okay.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
4-4.
I was never getting that question. I was never getting it.
Okay.
I was thinking
You might get
Rochester.
this.
Here we go.
Question 7 for the win, potentially. Here we go.
I'll keep myself out so we can decide for the win.
I'd love a good time.
The first team to come back down 3-1
Cleveland Cavaliers.
in the championship series. What year?
2016.
16.
In the championship.
It was against the Golden State Warriors.
Because that would be-
The
Golden State
finals.
Warriors.
In the
2016.
finals. But
Okay, in the finals. In the
73
finals.
and
Okay.
nine.
I didn't know if we were going conference
16,
champions.
Sam, I
73
think you
and
got
9.
it.
Thank you.
Sam Heuser, everybody.
Wow.
He's the best
That
ball
was
knower
terrifying.
in IU Sports Media. Round of applause. Round of applause. Well done, gentlemen. Jhett, Sam, Andrew.
Yikes.
Thank you
You
guys
get
so
some
much for
numbers
coming on the
down.
show.
I could say the
This was awesome. Like, you guys were terrific. This was a fun time. Thank you guys for coming on the show to talk some NBA. This was a blast. That'll do it for the show this week. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to continue the discussion and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports. And give our Toss-Up socials a follow on those same platforms as well. What will this year's NBA season give us? Only time will tell. With that, there's one thing left to do, so lob it up. We'll slam it down. And as always, we'll see you next week. God bless.
Thanks for watching IUSTV Sports. Be sure to subscribe at IUSTV and follow us on Instagram and X at IUSTV Sports.